Hi, my name is Lauren DeZelar. I'm a chapter leader serving here at CSU with SPO at the U, and welcome to the season of Advent. It's often referred to as a season of waiting, but it actually in the Christian life is a season of preparation for us, which tells us a bit more about what waiting looks like as a Christian in our life. It can be so hard to wait, we know the feeling, and when we're especially surrounded by a culture of instant gratification where we get what we want right away, it can be that much harder to wait. But I want to encourage us on waiting patiently and on what that means as a Christian. What does that look like? Waiting as a Christian does not mean doing nothing. It actually means being actively ready. Being ready and preparing ourselves for what is to come. So it's active, not passive. And when we are ready and actively awaiting God's action, we call that receptivity. I'm open to God's action in my life and His timing in my life, and I'm ready for Him when He is. So what's an example of active waiting? If you think about in football, I'm not a football guru, but say you're a wide receiver and you're ready for the throw from your teammate. An example of passive waiting, which we don't want, is if you're kind of waiting around, you're not really paying attention, your hands are limp and by your side, and then the thrower throws the ball and you miss it. Even worse, maybe it hits you and falls to the side. The opposite of that would be aggressively going after the ball. Your fists are clenched, you want the ball, you're going for it. That's not waiting at all. You're not ready to catch the ball, and the thrower can't throw the ball. That defeats the purpose. What we're after is when you're actively ready for the ball, hands open, anticipating, looking, on your feet, ready to catch it. The thrower throws it, you grab it, and you run for the touchdown score. That's the kind of waiting we're looking for. Active waiting is saying, I know what I want, and it is yet to come, yet with what I have right in front of me, I will say, yes, I accept. And this kind of radical waiting on the Lord actually changes us. It gives the Lord so much room to change our hearts and to prepare us for what is to come. It also helps us to remember that when we're waiting, it's usually for two reasons. One, it's either something out of our control, or two, it's actually better that I would receive this thing than go after it for myself. The first example is helpful to remember that God is God and I am not. If it's out of my control, it's simply out of my control and it's in God's hands and I can be ready and receptive. When it's something that I would be tempted to go after and grasp that for myself, this actually takes the gift of the Father's opportunity to provide for us out of His hands. He desires to provide for us, and He doesn't want us to have to fend for ourselves. So when we can wait readily and with receptivity, He can provide for us as He desires. One last example I want to give of someone who waits on the Lord actively and gives us a good example of how to be waiting for the Lord to come into our lives in this Advent season. It's King David in Psalm 27, and he's awaiting for the ultimate gift, which is the Lord and dwelling with Him in the heavenly kingdom. He starts by proclaiming his trust in the Lord. In verse 1, he says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" Then in verse 4, he makes his requests known, saying, "One thing I've asked for is to dwell in the house of the Lord forever." He then gives us a great example of joyful waiting also, which is really key. Verse 6, he's surrounded by his enemies, and in the midst of his trial, in the midst of waiting, he actually offers praise to the Lord and joyfully sings songs to Him. This is good for us to know. Verse 11 shows how he is open to being taught and to changing in the Lord also. He says, "Teach me your ways, lead me on a level path." And then finally, his last statement of trust and belief is in verse 13 and 14. "I believe that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Yea, wait for the Lord." So what is it that you want, that you're waiting for? Is it for a conflict to be resolved, for finals to be over, for circumstances to change? What are you waiting for? And what is God doing to prepare you in your life now in the waiting? Is it something that He has right in front of you that He wants you to attend to, an opportunity to love and to show patience or to grow in humility and compassion? Or is it in the waiting for finals to be done to study, and not only study well, but with joy rather than grumbling? There's something that the Lord has right in front of us in the waiting, and we can have hope that He will fulfill His promises. We know the Lord is good and trustworthy. He has our good in mind, and that there's a gift of joy and celebration in the waiting, and He can't be outdone in generosity. God bless you as you wait on the Lord and with expectant hope in this Advent season.